I'm very pleased to be here today. And actually, I was given the task to provide in 2 or 3 slides a little bit of a snapshot on how Italy went and is still going through the pandemic crisis from the economic and from the healthcare standpoint. I can see from the colleagues, from the German and French colleagues, that you also went into the sentiment, so to speak, of the business community in Romania. So I will do so at the end without the slide support. But one thing I can anticipate, the positive sentiment that Sebastian shared in particular is also shared by the Italian business community. The Italian Chamber, as you know, is a public institution or part of the Ministry of Economy of my country, represent to a large extent the vast majority of the Italian businesses in Romania. We have over 25,000 operational companies as we speak, but of course the vast majority of them are small or very small companies. And again, among the largest top 2 within the first 3 countries in terms of trade balance. Now let's go back to the original thing. I mean, you've heard it already. You heard it from Sebastian. You heard it from CCF, from the French, from Jérôme. The typology of measures is pretty much the same across Europe, and Italy is no difference. The difference, as far as my country at least is concerned, is the effectiveness of implementation. And in this respect, without any kind of political polemic, actually, but everybody recognized, and I recognize in the first place, that there is a moment, there is a watershed. There is an Italy before the Draghi administration and after the Draghi administration. What happened in quality terms, apart from the reliability, the credibility, and so on and so forth, something else has happened in Italy, which is a number of, let's say, measures which were not probably of any particular strategic character. And I could give 2 or 3 examples if someone is curious, had been finally removed. And we've concentrated on strategic measures that alleviate the difficulties faced by the economy. I'll go there in 3 main sections. I mean, and you've heard it in more numerical terms by Sebastian in his excellent presentation. There have been a number of non-repayable grants for small and medium enterprises in particular. There has been tax deadline extensions, as we've seen also, I guess, in France and also in Germany. There has been suspension of VAT payments and social contributions. There have been various forms of tax credits. And here, that's exactly where some of the most extravagant measures, let's say, conceived in the past have been rationalized and eliminated by the Draghi administration, which seems to have a far more impactful approach. In welfare terms, again, more of the same. The restriction measures that we have, in terms of welfare measures, again, more of the same. Redundancy fund extension. That's it's convoluted English way to say basically the block of any company dismissal. But of course, the state intervened with unemployment funds. There has been an emergency income measure. This, in fact, precedes the pandemic, and it was let's say, the main political topic of one of the parties that was at the base of the former governments and still part of the current government. Now that emergency income, also called citizenship income, has been widened during the pandemic, and we will see over the coming months how will then be reabsorbed. Of course, a number of other measures of financial support have been taken in relation to remote working, special leaves, and other types of bonus. The babysitter bonus is one of them. There are also other types. But again, even in welfare measures, this has not been very different in principle terms from what we've seen in other countries, including Romania. Healthcare all of a sudden in Italy as well as in other countries shifted, and this is good news actually, from being a cost to being an investment. All of a sudden, the pandemic made us realize that health protection is a prerequisite for economic growth. Now, medical personnel has been a very difficult topic to address over the past year and a half, and still a number of medical personnel, which, for example, was already in retirement, or last year healthcare students for some of the most, let's say, trivial duties of the health sector were drafted in. That, of course, increased substantially the amount of financial resources dedicated to the health sector. Of course, the drugs bill increased. Drug bill increased not only in terms of funding of the emergency units, which were stretched to the limit. Just to note that Italy's got about 3 times the intensive care units present in Romania, which is pretty much a parameter to the size of the population. But the cost of exercise of any intensive care unit is extremely high, as well as in any other country. So that required a substantial injection of financial resources. And then there has been made an effort to let's say, publish granular data on the pandemic, because this allowed local communities to take customized measures for that specific region. So effectively, all restriction measures have been done jointly by the national authorities and the local authorities of every specific region. And so we moved into what is called the color-based restriction. Now the picture, thanks God, is substantially better than what you are seeing in this picture, which is back a few months. Practically the whole of Italy now is yellow, bar some micro locations. And it is expected to move to green over the coming few weeks, or 2 to 3 weeks, and hopefully getting back the summer. Now, this is really due to how well we will perform the vaccination process, and that's another main watershed between the Draghi administration and previous administration. In a matter of a few weeks, actually, we reached approximately 500,000 vaccinations per day. And as we speak, about 35% of the population got at least 1 shot of the vaccination, which in this respect make us relatively optimistic on the evolution over the coming 60 days or so, and so ahead of the summer. This is, for Italy, is critical because of the tourist season, as you can easily imagine. Now, the toll, though, has been substantial. This is honestly, even when I saw it, I thought there was a mistake. Unfortunately, there is no mistake. The GDP loss has been epochal, I would say. Bear in mind that we have not recovered yet from the 2008 crisis, as you can see. and therefore the return to pre-COVID level, I mean pre-COVID level, it's not 2008, it's not expected before, I would say, mid to late 2024. Now, I don't want to stop with a gloomy picture like that. So the first thing I'll do, I'll move it out. But I would also like to look at one element of the bright side. I mean, on the one hand, it is known, so I'm not hypercritical towards my country. It is widely known that the Italian state historically is not very efficient, has not been efficient at all, actually, as administration of public funds. And there is a strong hope that this will change under the Draghi administration. On the other hand, it is also very well known that private wealth has been growing consistently over the last 30 years. Italians are good savers of money. So on the one hand, yes, there is public debt. On the other hand, most of that public debt is towards the citizens, which bought bonds at least until a few years ago. And now the investment categories is far more diverse, but there is this dichotomy. On the one hand, the state need to shape up. On the other hand, Italian families are in a relatively good shape. Also, I would say in the last year, thanks to a relatively substantial financial support. And with this, I would move to say a few words without any slide support on how we, the Italian community, feels about the economic climate in Romania. There is one slide that, again, Sebastian showed earlier on, which shows how between 2018, I think it was, or 2017 and 2021, the sentiment has shifted substantially on the positive side, particularly after 2018. I would say, I dare to say that that type of sentiment would be applicable also to the Italian community, for sure. This I can give it for granted, but also to many other communities, foreign business communities, which gained confidence in the evolution of the Romanian economic system over the last 12 months, 12, 18 months, I would say. So we do share that. There has been last year an increase of approximately 8,000 Italian companies registering in Romania. Again, most of them small or small, medium, in many cases, very small enterprises. But there is definitely a positive outlook in our projections as to the evolution of the bilateral relations, which is obvious, but on the overall economic climate. We do see an increase of wealth in the regions, and I think we have good antennas there, because one of the characteristics of the Italian business community, being small and medium enterprises, is that we are very evenly distributed across the territory. So we do have a sense of how wealth is flowing from the main centers. So basically, I'm talking about Bucharest and those 10 cities beyond over 200,000 people. I mean, the rest of Romania is in small cities or villages, and we do have a sense that there is economic growth starting or accelerating in these areas. Of course, this will be eased by infrastructural development plans, and so we are keenly looking at some of the aspects of the PNRR. Clearly, in terms of infrastructures, in terms of the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, and how this will be modeled in Romania. And in terms, last but not least, of how Romania will tackle the need to provide appropriate healthcare services, not only in the main centers, but also across the territory. This is very important because of what I said at the beginning. I mean, healthcare is more and more considered, not only in Romania, as an investment rather than a cost, and therefore it will be critical over the coming years to see how through these additional resources provided by the European Union, so the famous 80 billion or 40 out of the 80, whatever it is, what percentage, which we know is high, but how that percentage will be allocated to improve the healthcare sectors. So these are, in a way, the three or four key areas. We are pretty optimistic on the evolution. We look specifically at how the resources of PNRR will be deployed, particularly on 3-4 areas. We're talking about infrastructure, healthcare, and energy. Of course, digitalization is a sort of minimum common denominator to all the deployment of the resources. At this point, I would probably stop here and then happy to answer questions as they come out. Thank you.